I can turn into a fish. Chapter 29, Evolving Body. When afternoon came, no one left. Instead, everyone found a room inside the resort and started playing poker. With his control power, Chu Xian easily won 10,000 RMB in just over an hour. This was even with him intentionally losing a couple of times. Later that evening, he offered to buy a couple rounds at the bar. 1. His generous move gave credit to his character in the eyes of Jin Sen and the others. Before they left, all of them exchanged contact information. Chu Xian also obtained a better understanding of them. Zhao Xiao's family ran hotels, Song Huisheng's family ran 4 stores, and Li Qiao's family owned a distribution company. Every one of them had $100 million background. Li Huazhong and Ji Wenqing's parents were government officials. Ji Wenqing's father was something like the head of the National Department of Education. With regards to Li Huazhong though, he didn't really understand his background. That night he was too tipsy, so he called a driver to take him back to his shop. The next morning, Chu Xian went to the fish market armed with a big wad of cash, ready to splurge. He bought 100 plus of both 70 cm and 80 cm fish and rented a car to deliver all these fish to his shop. Examining the packed interior of his small shop, Chu Xian considered upsizing his shop. Of course, not only did he consider a bigger store, but he was also considering buying a fish farm to use as a cover for all his fish, where he could remold very large ornamental fish. I'll check out some places in the afternoon. Chu Xian thought to himself before he transformed into a fish and began feeding himself. Ding! Congratulations! Host is now level 11, 90 centimeters. Strength, speed, toughness, and bite force have been upgraded. Host can choose an additional attribute to power up. The system sounded out. After Chu Xian devoured all the rest of fish, he shifted his mind to examine his status. Name, Chu Xian. Status, fish, can transform into a human. Level, 11, newborn little fish, 90 centimeters. Combat power, 55. Ability, devour, can evolve from eating smaller fish. Control, can control lower-leveled fish. Big fish eat little fish system ability. Remold, can change the shape of self or fish under your control. Every transformation will lower your level and the level of the fish you control. After he swallowed all the fish he bought, Chu Xian's fish body was now 90 centimeters and looked quite intimidating. He had a black body with blood-red eyes on an enormous head that couldn't hide his sharp teeth. When he gaped his mouth, he could swallow a soccer ball. He leveled up 3 times and chose to power up speed, bite force, and toughness in even measure. His combat power reached 55. He didn't know what kind of experience he'd have in the sea, but he thought it'd be no problem for him to fight a regular 1-meter large fish. But at this point, a size of 90 centimeters was still too small for the sea. If he met something like a shark, he wouldn't be able to fight back. Since he was just beginning to turn his life around, Chu Xian didn't want to risk everything just to level up and explore. I'll keep leveling up in the safety of my home then. Chu Xian decided before driving back to the fish market. This time, he didn't get too many 90 centimeters fish but decided instead to get more 70 and 80 centimeters ones. What made him speechless was after going back and forth to the market 3 times and eating 600 of the 70 to 80 centimeters fish, he only leveled once. Just that morning, he spent more than 50,000 RMB on fish. If he wanted to level, he'd have to spend increasingly more. He looked at the 1-meter fish in the mirror with satisfaction, opening and closing his mouth before transforming back into a human. Chu Xian felt his body had changed somehow it felt different. Did leveling up have any side effects? He frowned, and taking off his clothes, he examined himself in the mirror. This. Chu Xian looked at himself in the mirror, numbed and amazed. Chu Xian always spent his days at his shop and rarely exercised. He wasn't very fat, but he also didn't have much muscle. Everything was pretty soft. Yet now his pecs and abs were well defined and full of explosive power. He used a little bit of strength to flex his arm and the lines of his muscles showed up clearly. The muscles on his upper body felt rock hard. He definitely couldn't get this physique without 3 to 4 years of exercising. He discovered also that his eyesight had improved. Chu Xian's expression kept changing as he stared at his changed self in the mirror. As he mentally checked his status, aside from an increase in body size and combat power, there were no other changes. This could be a hidden reward given when my size reaches 1 meter, or it could be that the toughness in one shape exceeds the toughness in the other and the effect bled over, strengthening my real human body as well. After thinking for a bit, Chu Xian decided to test his theories and got ready to return to the market. When the shop owners saw that he returned, their faces were covered in huge smiles. They helped him scoop out the fish he wanted and eagerly recommended other places to buy what he needed. After going back and forth 5 times, Chu Xian devoured some 2 or 3 tons of these 70 to 80 centimeters fish and leveled up once more. Name, Chu Xian. Status, human, can transform into a fish. Level, 13, newborn little fish, 1.1 m. Combat power, 78. Ability, devour, can evolve from eating smaller fish. Control, can control lower leveled fish. Big fish eat little fish. System ability. Remold, can change the shape of self or fish under your control. Every transformation will lower your level and the level of the fish you control. I understand now. When he turned back into a human and felt the enormous changes in his body, Chu Xian's face showed great excitement. After leveling up again and turning back into a human, he realized his body had improved again. I can turn into a fish, which means I am the fish, and the fish is me. My body is the fish's body, and the fish's body is my body. When the fish's body grows, my body grows. If my fish state grows to the size of a whale, my body strength is also going to reach a terrifying level. Chu Xian's face was impassioned. Then, each power-up translates to a change in my human state. Strength is strength, toughness is physique, speed is speed. Then what about bite force? Power up bite force. Chu Xian willed. He hadn't used the additional power up immediately after leveling but had waited in order to study the effect. Powering up bite force improves my intelligence. Feeling the changes, Chu Xian's eyes sparkled. Improved physique and brains, strength, and speed. This is an all-rounded improvement. If a superhero really existed, that person would be me. Chu Xian mouth curled into a smile.